Okay, sorry for the provocative title. I don't really know what I'm going to make it yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be attention grabbing. And today I stumbled upon this article and I found it interesting, especially since it's from the guy who had a little bit of, a history. And maybe incited fear in the past. Ooh, who could I be talking about? Well, you can probably see in the title of these HTML documents who I'm talking about. But let's pretend you don't. Let's pose a question, shall we? What if someone at the beginning of COVID shorted a lot of stocks that people used when they were going out, maybe whether they're hotels or amusement parks or whatever, and then they went on CNBC and pleaded that the government shut down the economy for a month and say, quote unquote, hell is coming to, I guess, scorch the earth. And then a week later, that person closed his positions, his puts, and made $2 billion off of it. What if I told you that person is now coming back and maybe saying inflation isn't quite what it seems? Maybe it's a little higher. And here's what you can do to prevent you from losing money. That's what we're talking about today. If you like this kind of content, this is a little, I guess, different than what I usually talk about. Usually I talk about puts and options and trading those for some extra income on the side. But I found this, I just thought, why not make a video? And you can agree with what he says you could do to hedge against inflation, which, by the way, I'm not saying he's wrong that you can't invest in these things to hedge, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this guy. Maybe you are. Good for you. But just to cite what I was talking about earlier, here we go. Bill Ackman warned hell is coming because of virus. He then pocketed $2 billion in bets against markets. He came on CNBC Live, and I think he had like a 20-minute interview or something crazy. I think he broke down in tears at one point. We couldn't see him. I think we could just hear him. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But less than 1 week later, he closed those bets that he made against all of these different companies and made $2 billion because people were freaking out that they were going to fail. And here we go. He also bet against Hilton even more, saying it's heading to zero after he got his $2 billion, which I don't think it has. So maybe that $2 billion came and went. But anyway, Bill Ackman says inflation could actually be a raging. This is the adjective he uses, raging. 10%. Not that, 10% is good by any standard. Nice that they add raging. Here are 3 creative ways to hedge. Very creative. No one's ever talked about these ways. The consumer price index rose 6.8% in November, year over year, but Ackman believes the government uses extremely imprecise metrics that underestimate housing costs. He could have a point. A more accurate figure, the billionaire investor says, would be 10.1%. So maybe we're being lied to. Maybe it's closer to 10%. Here are 3 things that you can invest in to hedge against inflation. They say precious metals have always been a popular hedge since gold and silver can't be printed out of thin air like fiat money, and the increased demand during times of uncertainty tends to boost their value. But here are 3 extra options. 1, farmland. The ultra-rich have amassed farmland since the beginning of recorded history. I read something maybe a year or 2 ago about how Bill Gates acquired a crap ton of farmland. I forget what it was. It was southern United States. So maybe he's onto something there. What's number 2, you may ask? Well, let's continue reading. Bitcoin. No one's ever talked about this. This is a new one. What an insightful guy. Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be used to hedge because, like gold and silver, 21 million are going to be created. And actually, there's going to be less in circulation because a lot of people forgot their keys, and now the Bitcoin's just stuck in those wallets with no one ever being able to access them. Blah, blah, blah. But Bitcoin, he says, is also a hedge against inflation. And lastly, fine art. This is my personal opinion, but I'd say of the 3, this is probably the worst. And my opinion on this is because I think it's harder to sell in the future compared to land and cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency being obviously the most easy, right behind silver and gold, but that wasn't on this list. But here they give a stat about art. They say contemporary artwork has outperformed the S&P 500 by a commanding 174% over the past 25 years. So maybe there is something to be said about collecting file. I'm not saying it's a bad investment. I just say of the three, I see it as the hardest to get rid of. And maybe I'm wrong. Well, that's it, guys. So that's all I have to say. Looks like we're being lied to, and inflation is raging 10.1%. Welcome to hell.